There's this quiet language we all speak, a kind of hidden sorting system we use every single day without even thinking about it. It's all about numbers and labels and assumptions we just don't question. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that language. We're going to see what it really tells us about the human mind.
Yeah, we sort the world into smart and slow. We do it all the time. It feels simple, right? Almost instinctual. But what if that clean, simple division, what if it's hiding something much, much deeper? A more complex, more profound truth? What if we're missing the real story?
Okay, so to really understand what we might be missing, we have to start with what we think we know. Let's begin somewhere familiar for all of us, the world of measurement.
Just think about it for a second. From the moment you walk into school, you're quantified. You get grades, you take tests, you're given scores. It feels like our whole society is built on this obsession with measuring everything. It's a system that's designed to sort us, to put us in boxes, and maybe even predict our future.
And right at the heart of all this is the intelligence quotient. You know it as IQ. It's just a single number, right? It comes from these standardized tests that are supposed to measure how well you can reason, solve problems, how fast you can think. And it's become this incredibly powerful shorthand, a quick way to judge someone's mental horsepower. The whole scale, it's anchored to one number, 100. That's it. That's the statistical average. It's the baseline. It's the number that every other score gets compared to. It's basically our cultural center point for what we call normal. And, well, as you move down that scale, the labels, they get more serious. If you score below 70, that's the clinical threshold. That's the point where psychology officially classifies someone as having an intellectual disability. And that is a heavy label to carry. But what if that number, what if that label is actually hiding the most interesting part of the whole story? Because this is where things take a really fascinating turn. We're about to go past that single score and look at the actual underlying structure of the mind. And this leads us to a question that just cuts right to the core of everything we assume. Does a very low IQ score, does it just mean an absence of intelligence? A defect? Is the brain broken? While the answer from modern psychology is a pretty firm no, it's not broken. Look at this comparison. We tend to think of it as an absence of intelligence, right? A broken brain. But the psychological reality is, it's a fundamentally different cognitive architecture. The brain isn't broken. It's just organized in a completely different way.
And when we look at the neurology, the research points to one area in particular, the prefrontal cortex. You can think of it as the brain's CEO. It's in charge of planning, of abstract thought. And in people with a very low IQ, this region tends to show, well, reduced connectivity and slower processing speeds. But again, this isn't a defect. It's just a different wiring diagram.
And that different wiring diagram, well, it leads to one of the most compelling paradoxes in all of psychology. So on one hand, this kind of cognitive architecture makes abstract thinking incredibly difficult. Things like understanding complex cause and effect, or planning for a future that's way off in the distance. Even just picking up on those unspoken social rules we all take for granted. All of that can take a huge amount of effort.
And yet, and this is so important, this is often paired with some pretty remarkable and often unexpected strengths, like a really strong sensitivity to emotions, a powerful and incredibly reliable memory for procedures, for routines, and this amazing capacity to learn through repetition and patterns.
You see, their world, their whole reality, it just isn't built on abstract ideas. It's grounded in the here and now, the tangible, the concrete. It's a world that's built on direct experiences, on familiar patterns, and on deep emotional connections. So all of this, it forces us to ask a much bigger question, doesn't it? What if our very definition of intelligence is just way too narrow?
Famous psychologists like Howard Gardner have been challenging this idea of a single intelligence for years. He argued that there are actually multiple intelligences. Think about it, being brilliant with words, or amazing with spatial reasoning, or having this incredible gift for understanding other people, those are all their own distinct forms of genius.
And that brings us back to the real story of the IQ test. Here's the thing. It was never, ever designed to measure your worth as a person or your emotional depth. It was designed for one very specific job:
to predict how well someone might do in a traditional school setting. That's it, full stop.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle, the part of us that you just can't measure with a test.
See, deep inside the brain, there's the limbic system. You can think of it as our emotional core, the very heart of our brain. And what's so incredible is that this system, it operates largely on its own, separate from the part of the brain that handles all that abstract logical reasoning.
So, when you boil it all down, an IQ test is really just measuring the processing power of the prefrontal cortex. It's testing one very specific part of an unbelievably complex system. But the things that we hold most dear, the experiences that actually define us as human beings, they don't live in that part of the brain. They live somewhere else, somewhere much, much deeper. Just think about it. Love, loyalty, that sharp sting of fear, or the simple warmth of joy, that incredible feeling of connection you have with another person, none of that, not a single one, is a product of logic or abstract thought. And that leaves us with one last big question to ponder. If our deepest, most meaningful connections, the things that make up the very fabric of our lives, if they aren't products of what we call intelligence, then what does that tell us about what it really means to be human?